My dad passed on a Friday. By Sunday, our stepmother had already called an estate attorney. By Monday morning she was sitting across from my sister and me with a notarized will on the table that gave everything, the house, the savings, the investment accounts, all of it, to her and her kids. Our dad's biological daughters got one line. Personal items of sentimental value to be selected at the discretion of the surviving spouse. That was it. She slid that document across the table like she was doing us a favor letting us read it. What she did not know, what she could not have known because she clearly did not do her homework, is that my sister has worked in legal administration for 6 years. And the first thing my sister does when she sees a notary seal is verify it. The notary on that will had been disqualified from practice 25 months before it was supposedly signed. The whole thing was fraud. And fraud, it turns out, has a very specific and very satisfying set of consequences. Ay Maya. Stay with me because this is the story of how one Google search took everything from the woman who thought she'd taken everything from us. I'll give you the quick context because the main event is what matters, and honestly the setup writes itself. My dad, I'll call him Ray, was 64, retired, and had spent 30+ years building a solid, comfortable life. Small business owner, smart with money, paid off the house, had real savings. He wasn't rich, but what he had was real and it was built from scratch. My sister Jade and I grew up watching him work for every bit of it. He married our stepmother, I'll call her Renee, 5 years ago. She has 2 adult kids from her first marriage. A son named Carter and a daughter named Brianna. Jade and I were in our mid-20s when they got together, so it wasn't like we needed a new parent. We were polite, civil. We showed up for Thanksgiving and did our part. But Renee always had this energy around dad stuff. His house, his accounts, what things were worth, what the neighborhood was doing price-wise. That made both Jade and me quietly uncomfortable. We never said it out loud to each other. We probably should have. Dad had a cardiac event in his sleep. Gone instantly, his doctor said. He didn't suffer. That's the thing I hold on to. Jade and I were at Dad's house the morning after he passed, just trying to hold it together and figure out what needed to happen next. Renee was there. She was sad, or she performed sadness, and I'm trying to be fair here because I genuinely don't know which, but she also kept making calls in the other room. Quiet ones. Brief ones. We didn't think much of it at the time. 2 days later, 48 hours after we lost our dad, Renee texted both of us and asked us to meet her at an estate attorney's office that afternoon. Neither Jade nor I had any idea what was coming. We figured it was just the starting point for estate administration. A formality. The kind of thing you do in the first week. We walked in. Renee was already there with Carter and Brianna. The attorney, a guy I'd never met, clearly not someone Dad had any prior relationship with based on how the room felt, had a document folder in front of him. Renee reached into her purse and put her own copy on the table. She said, Ray updated his will about a year ago. I wanted you girls to hear it from an attorney. The will left the house, the investment accounts, and the savings entirely to Renee, with a secondary beneficiary designation to Carter and Brianna. My sister and I were each entitled to, and I quote, personal items of sentimental value to be identified and provided at the discretion of the surviving spouse. Jade asked for a copy. The attorney gave us one. Jade thanked everyone, said we'd be in touch, and we left. We got to the parking lot. Jade did not say a single word until we were inside her car with the doors closed. Then she opened the document. She went straight to the last page. She looked at the notarization block, the notary's printed name, the commission number, the seal, the expiration date. She pulled out her phone. Jade has worked in legal administration for 6 years. She's handled hundreds of documents. She told me once that verifying a notary takes about 45 seconds if you know where to look, and she always looks. She typed the commission number into the state notary public registry. She stared at the screen. She turned her phone so I could see it. The notary's commission had been voluntarily surrendered following a disciplinary finding, disqualified officially 25 months before the date on Dad's supposed will. I read the entry twice. Then I looked at Jade. She said very quietly. She used a dead seal. We had an attorney by end of day, a probate and estate litigation specialist named Karen, who Jade had encountered professionally, and knew to be sharp and no nonsense. We sent her everything that night, photos of the will, the notary registry screenshot, the date discrepancies. Karen called us the next morning. Her assessment was direct. The notarization was legally void, which meant the will failed to meet proper execution requirements under state law. This wasn't a technicality she could wave off. It was a foundational defect. A valid notarization requires a currently commissioned notary. This one wasn't. The document was worthless as a legal instrument. The more pressing question was how it happened. A disqualified notary doesn't accidentally end up on a document. Someone sourced that seal, either through the former notary directly, or through a copy of an old stamp that should have been destroyed when the commission ended. Either way, Karen said, we were looking at fraud. Not an honest mistake. Not a clerical error. Fraud. We authorized her to file. Karen submitted a fraud complaint to the county DA's office and the state probate fraud division simultaneously. She also filed an emergency motion in probate court to contest the will before it could be entered into the record. Renee's attorney pushed back hard. He argued that the will's intent was clear, that the notary issue was a technical defect rather than evidence of wrongdoing, and that the court should look past the procedural irregularity to honor what Ray clearly wanted. Karen's response was clean and devastating. There is no evidence Ray wanted this. There is a document with a fraudulent seal, produced 2 days after his death, by a woman with obvious financial motive, using a notary who had been legally barred from practice for over 2 years. The court does not look past fraud. The court voids fraud. The probate judge agreed. I was in that courtroom. I want to describe what it felt like when the judge declared the will void because it's the kind of moment you spend the rest of your life remembering. He read through Karen's argument. He reviewed the notary registry documentation. He asked Renee's attorney one question, just one. Can you produce any evidence that the notary was actively commissioned at the time this document was supposedly executed? And when the attorney said no, the judge set down his pen and said the will was invalid on its face. Renee made a sound. I don't have a word for it exactly. Somewhere between a gasp and something harder to describe. Carter put his hand on her arm. Brianna stared at the table. Under our state's intestate succession laws, which govern estate distribution when no valid will exists, biological children are primary heirs when the surviving spouse's claim is subject to contest. Karen had prepared extensively for this. The DA investigation had also surfaced evidence of financial transfers Renee had made from joint accounts in the months prior to Dad's death. Transfers being reviewed as potential misappropriation of marital assets. By the time the probate process concluded, Jade and I were recognized as the estate's primary heirs. The house is ours. The accounts are ours. The 30-plus years of our dad's work belongs to the people he spent those 30 years working for. Renee received nothing from the estate. Any financial claims she had were offset by the asset transfer investigation, the details of which I won't go into publicly while legal proceedings are still ongoing. Carter has not contacted us. Brianna sent a short message saying she was sorry. I haven't responded yet. I'm not angry at her. I just don't have anything to say right now. Jade and I drove back from the courthouse together. We didn't really talk for a while. Then Jade said, she picked the one career path that would catch her. I thought about that for a long time. She's right. If Jade had been an accountant or a nurse or literally anything else, we probably would have cried in that attorney's office and signed whatever was next and spent years wondering if we'd been cheated and never knowing for sure. Renee had planned for a lot of things. She had not planned for a woman who checks notary seals by habit before she even gets out of the parking lot. Dad always told us to be thorough, pay attention to details, do things right. He taught Jade that. She used it for exactly this. That's the part that gets me most. Even at the end, even in the worst possible way, he protected us. He just needed Jade to notice. Someone asked if we're keeping the house. We haven't decided yet. We've been sitting with it. It's where we grew up. It's complicated. Someone asked how Renee thought she was going to get away with it. Honestly, I think she assumed we'd be too grieving and too overwhelmed to scrutinize a notary seal. She was right about the overwhelming part. She just underestimated Jade. That was her only real mistake. It was enough. Renee had planned for a lot of things. She planned for grief. She planned for overwhelm. She probably planned for some pushback, some tears, maybe even a mild legal challenge. She did not plan for a sister who checks notary seals as a reflex before she even starts the car. One disqualified commission number. 45 seconds in a parking lot. And the entire thing, the document, the strategy, the 5 years of positioning came completely apart. Jade and Maya didn't get angry in that attorney's office. They got thorough. And thorough, it turns out, is the most dangerous thing you can be when someone is trying to steal from you. The judge voided the will. The state gave them everything. And Renee walked out of a 5-year marriage with nothing, because she used a dead seal on a document she produced 48 hours after their father died. So jury, did justice land exactly where it belonged? Or do you have any sympathy for Renee at all? And the question I want you to really think about, how many people in this exact situation don't have a Jade? How many times does fraud like this just work? Drop your verdict in the comments. The floor is yours.